What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. On this show, we get to it, right? We connect with 6, 7, 8 figure earners. We want them to come on the show, break down a principle, a strategy, a lesson that's easy for you guys to understand, so then you can take this and implement it, right? And get a quick win, execute, learn something and stuff like that. Today's episode, we got Cynthia Day on the show. She's a storyteller, messaging expert, marketer. Her and I met officially in Vegas, and the vibes was vibing on a high level. I learned so much from her as well during that workshop. So welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. And I just got to say, I love the title, the Imperfect Action Show. There's something magical about imperfect action. You know, it doesn't always have to be all planned out. And I feel like most of the people who I've seen who have achieved a lot of success in their lives understand that it doesn't have to be perfect to get started. So anyways, I love the title.
Now, I appreciate that. I'm doing right now is sending a quick message out to the
Cool.
community, let them know we are on and popping. And definitely I agree. I think I believe that consistent imperfect action is what's going to give you results. Consistent imperfect action is what's going to create momentum, and then you just you perfect it, or you make it better as you go. But if you're sitting around hoping to get the book cover perfect, hoping to get the title perfect, if you're hoping to get all the videos done and edited a certain way or however you want it, guess what? It's never gonna come out, or it's gonna be super delayed. You're not gonna be able to do the sales that you want to do. You might stay procrastinating, so it just puts you behind. So 100%.
You're low key calling me out right now. So the thing is, I try to find a medium between, because I feel, just like kind of a counterpoint. I
Yeah.
feel like we live in a generation now where it's okay to be mediocre,
Mm,
right? And I have this mantra, and it's I'm not gonna accept mediocrity because it's become acceptable. I'll still strive for excellence. So I
mm,
think the magic in that is it's finding the sweet spot between perfectionism and just excellence, right? So getting it
yeah.
to a point where it's not perfect, but it's okay, and letting it go rather than aiming for a certain level of perfectionism. And it's a delicate balance, right? Because there's a thin
Yeah.
line between the two. But yeah, I try to strive for excellence in everything I do. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's pretty interesting, right? Because your level of excellence is different from the next person's.
Exactly.
And that
Subjective, right?
100%. So it's like
Yeah.
your your level of excellence could be someone's level of not ever it executing. But then again, the next
Yeah.
person's level of excellence could just be like, listen, we got it to where it needs to be. We can take
Yeah.
action on this, and we can
Yeah.
improve it as we go. So yeah, I think that having it be subjective is actually pretty good, because like you don't have to compare yourself to the next person.
Yeah.
At the same time, it could be something that might hamper
Yeah.
you depending
Yeah.
on what your level of
Yeah.
it is. You know what I mean? So,
I I I do think that on some level, people know excellence when they see it,
mm,
right? So it doesn't, I do think, because again, it wouldn't be excellence if it was all subjective. I think on some level, people can see something and go and like agree that it's excellent. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So and for me, like that's the level that I try to achieve. But you're very right. It can be subjective sometimes, but I feel like we can all agree on certain things, right? Like we can all agree that Russell Brunson's crushing it in the marketing industry. There's certain people we can all agree on, and that for me is like the level of excellence I try to attain.
but
But
he didn't
yeah.
know. But he wouldn't start like that. He didn't start like that.
Exact. True. Good
So
point.
it's
Good
like
point.
when you look at people, especially, I think what people tend to not take into account is when we
Mm,
see people that we may have some admiration towards, and
mm,
we constantly see them, right? It's
yeah.
because of the ads, because of the retargeting, right?
Yeah.
Because of their level of marketing. What we
Mm,
tend to not even calculate, I feel like, because I've definitely felt this way. We
mhm,
don't know the amount of marketing dollars going in to get that
mm,
video in front of you. We don't know the
yeah.
amount of retargeting or
Yeah.
other systems, right?
Yeah.
So we're discounting all of that because we don't know what's going on behind the veil. We just
Yeah.
see the person that, oh, he doing it. I mean, he's doing it. She's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, I have to look like that before I put it
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
they're like so many steps ahead. Plus, they got teams. They
Yeah.
probably got a production studio on site, so they can come
Yeah.
from idea to execution in an hour.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
get it edited, put it out. Oh, we don't like it. They can switch it up and put it back out in the same day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we may have to rent a studio, ask a friend if they can hold the
Yeah.
camera. You know, like there's a lot of different parts that we may have when we're looking to people that are
Yeah.
executing at a higher level, and we're like, I want myself to be like this person.
I agree. But you see, it's already a wonderful conversation. I agree to some extent, but again, I feel like there's little things you can do. So take for instance your little background.
Yep.
That to me is beautiful, right? And I'm sure you didn't have to spend too much money on it.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are little things you can do here or there, right, to make your $5 worth design look like it was $1 million. You know what I mean? Like there are little things, and that's my specialty. I think that's why that's why I'm like standing on that opinion. It's like that's my
Yeah.
specialty. It's like I could take like some work $5 and make it look like it was $1 million. They're just little tricks you can use to make
Mm-hmm.
your work or your output look excellent, even if you don't have all of the money to throw behind it. But anyways, it's already a great conversation.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
what have you learned about like the power of messaging and like
Mm,
utilizing stories and
yeah.
when did you really lock into that
Mm,
versus just putting out messages, right? Like when did
mm,
you figure out, okay, it needs to be this way or possibly
mhm,
in story form versus
mhm.
me just kind of putting out messaging.
So it's funny, I've had the epiphany that there's a story behind everything since I was like a teenager. So I was born into a very creative family, creative mom, we're the family who sings and we dance and we do all that stuff, right? So I have all those skill sets. And, naturally you feel like since you have all those skill sets, you're supposed to be in Hollywood or you're supposed to be like an actor or something, right? So that's why it attracted me to the entertainment industry. So I worked after my studies, I have a certificate, bachelor's, master's from the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. I naturally just went into Hollywood and started working with a bunch of production companies as a story producer. Won a
Mm,
couple of awards for that, for my work. Won a couple of awards, worked with the likes of Keith Powell, who was on 30 Rock. And after a while, I found that it wasn't as fulfilling as I had hoped it would be going in. And so I quit and I moved out to Atlanta, where I live right now. And I started trying to see how I could use those skills to help business owners instead, right? So naturally started with video. I started as a video production person for businesses, slowly started expanding into social media management and all that stuff. And then over the pandemic, we all have this point. I feel like we all have this point in our story recently and then the pandemic hit, right?
yeah, yeah.
So when the pandemic hit, at a time where everyone was at a standstill, I actually saw a lot of opportunity to grow.
Mm,
So I embarked on a mission, and basically my mission was just, just share your story, right? Your expertise on social media for 100 days and see what happens. And by the end of that 100 days, I'd grown my following on Instagram from 0 to over 10,000 followers. And I had a vibrant community of people around me, people looking forward to my post on a daily basis. And it occurred to me that there was something bigger in that than I had thought initially. And so I started investing more of my time into building that out. It's funny, when I even embarked on a journey, I wasn't prepared for a business. But by the end of the journey, I realized that there was something here that was valuable that people wanted. And so one of the first things I did was I put up a Calendly link, just a basic Calendly link. It's even back on my page right now. And it goes, hey, book a discovery call, right? And that's how I got my first few clients. People just booked discovery calls with me, liked my content, reached out to me. We had conversations. And I was able to replicate my results with my first client. She's this pretty accomplished woman. By the time she came to me, she had already, verified account and all that stuff on Instagram. But I helped her like within like a month of working with me, her page blew up. She went viral, right? And again, it was all because I was infusing her story into her strategy, into her
mm.
content. And so seeing the success that I had with her personal brand, she enlisted me to work on her product company as well. Again, one of the first things I did was review their content and find the unique stories and lifestyles that their content supports, that their product supports. And rather than talk about their product, we're talking about the lifestyle. We're talking about the stories behind the product. And their page blew up too within
Yep.
2 months. Sales went up by over 50% within 2 months. And so yeah, and I mean, like, there's not much else you need than that to prove that what you do works, right? So it's all about scaling what I do. Since then, it's been all about scaling and making sure that I'm helping more people with those unique insights that I learned, intrinsically and also through my experience in Hollywood. So
All right, so I got a question for you, but we also got one from Brandy. Actually, shout out to Brandy. She's in Action Takers community, and she actually just had her first $1,900 sale
woo!
the other day. So shout out to her. Right, she got a
Yay, yay,
question right
Brandy.
there. Her question is, what is the first step to infusing my story with my business? And
I saw that question. And the
just
reason
a
why I
quick
went like,
background. Yeah, just a quick background. Brandy
uh-huh,
teaches piano to
yeah.
kids and adults.
Nice. So the first thing you got to do is figure out what are the stories that are most closely related to what you do, right? What is the background behind that? When did you get your first epiphany? And there's a whole worksheet I could share with you on this, Brandy, if you want to. And I don't know if you have a way of,
Yeah,
but there's a
yeah. Right
I'll
after this, we're gonna do the private 30 session, so you can give it to
okay,
her.
cool. All right, sounds good. So there's a whole worksheet, and then like you have to figure out what is the backstory, um, what are the stories that are most related to what you do. When did you get the aha moment? So as I was sharing my story right now, I talked about how I had a series of aha moments, right? So there was the first one, moving away from Atlanta, moving away from Los Angeles, moving to Atlanta, helping small businesses, growing my page. And then I was like, aha, like this could be something that I could use to help other people. When did you get that moment? That's usually the background story, right? And then trace that and figure out, usually the strongest stories are those that are inspired by personal experience. So if your business is inspired by personal experience, I know something I call a Me Too business, which is just you saw someone doing it and you want to do it too. If your business is inspired by personal experience, there's a higher likelihood that the story will be stronger and more effective. So that's where to start.
Say that one more time.
If your business is inspired by your personal experience,
Hmm.
there's a higher likelihood that your story will be more effective for your business. So yeah, so that's the first step, is to look into your backstory, look into the aha moments you got, and then what are the aha moments. So if someone's asked me what was my aha moment, like I said, it was during the pandemic. And then the next step is to figure out what framework, even if it wasn't a framework, try to put what you did after you got that aha moment into a framework. So for me, it was a 100-day journey, right? 100 days of clarifying my message, putting my message out there, gauging the response from people, and then continue to clarify my message, right? And then after that, I built out a lead magnet, right? My lead magnet initially was a discovery call. It's changed since then because I got way too many discovery calls in too short a time and it was just too much. But my lead magnet at the time was a discovery call. And then the next step to that was conversions, right? So conversations that led to conversions. You get people on calls and you talk to them about what you do, and you have proof that what you do works, and then you convert them into clientele. So
Yeah, so we have another question from Destiny, but what I wanted to kind of just throw up in there. So, because I know when people hear this word funnel, they think it's like this large, this big thing, right? Like,
yeah,
funnel
lead
seems
magnets.
yeah, it seems so crazy, right? But
Yeah.
when you put up that Calendly link and you're putting up this content, right? You was on this 100-day journey of content. So them receiving or watching your content, processing your content, and then the call to action going into your link in the bio and booking a
Yeah,
call. That's a funnel. Like
I
that's
agree.
a journey. So
Yep.
you don't necessarily need the funnel to get them to where you want to go. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it will help in the future, and this is what we're talking about, taking imperfect action. So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody was like, I can't do a lead magnet or I can't get my customers until I have a funnel, they would lose out on a couple days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? Because if they're
Yeah.
worrying about what software do I need to get, who's going to build my
Yeah.
funnel, do I need to figure out how to put the software together?
Yeah.
or if they just take the action like you did,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do 100 days. I'm gonna make some content. I'm gonna do the messaging this way, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna direct them with a call to action to the link in the bio, which is gonna go to my calendar. So you were able to get those sales faster.
Yep, absolutely. That's a funnel. And people, that's a very good point because people have a very limited view on what funnels are and what
Yeah,
lead magnets are. Lead magnet, they think ebook, right?
yeah,
But anything that attracts leads is a lead magnet, right?
yeah,
Your content is a lead magnet, right?
definitely.
The link I had in my bio is a lead magnet. So basically, yeah, like you just said, I built out a funnel using Instagram. I didn't have my website was like, at the time, my website was based on my celebrity, like, thing. So I wasn't even using my website at that time. And so yeah, initially my funnel was just my Instagram page, and that was what I used to lock in my first few clients.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I'm happy that you said it. So I got another question about just today's market because I know it's a little different from what it was before. But Destiny's asking, how can you get crystal clear on messaging?
So I have 5 steps, and just full disclosure, the thing with getting crystal clear on messaging is you test your messaging, right? Again, it goes back to imperfect action. Test it out, see how it's being received, analyze the results, and then get back to the drawing board, right? However, I have 5 steps that I use to help clients get crystal clear on their messaging. And the first step is, what is the objective of what you do, right? What is the goal of what you do as it pertains to your audience? Because sometimes when I ask people this question, they start to talk about the objective as it pertains to them. But no, it's the objective as it pertains to your target audience. What is the objective of the brand or your business, and what questions does it aim to answer for your target audience? That's step one. Step two is, what are the problems or pain points of your target audience? Go beyond just the demographic information down to the psychographic information. What keeps them up at night? In marketing circles, they call the pain point the gunshot wound, right? Right. Some people call it the open wound problem, right? Right. And it sounds very graphic, but that's to express the seriousness of the issue as it pertains to how it bothers your target audience, right? So what keeps them up at night? That's the second step. And then the third step is, what is your unique insight? That's where your story really starts to come into play, because what makes what you do different from other people? So for me, for instance, what makes what I do different from other people is the fact that I have the Hollywood background. I'm a storyteller, right? So it's not just marketing, but it's story-based marketing, right? I literally use, like, if you go on my Instagram page today, I literally use the movie Wakanda Forever, and I created this whole analogy on storytelling tips entrepreneurs can learn from Wakanda Forever. Like that's literally my background. That's what makes me different from the market, right? Is my knowledge about filmmaking, movies, all that stuff. So that's the third step, is what's your unique insight? What's the thing that you bring to the market that's different from everyone else? And then the next step is, then what is your offer, right? And now that your audience knows numbers 1, 2, 3, what problem are you offering to solve for them? And I would hope that you write this down and actually go through this exercise. And then the third step is, now that they know numbers 1 through the fifth step, is now that they know numbers 1 through 4, so what, right? So what do they do with all that information? That's your call to action, right? And the calls to action change as you move along in your business, right? So for me, for instance, in the beginning, my call to action was just follow me, because I needed visibility. I wanted the visibility. After a while, it could be click on the link in the bio, right? Or as most people say on Instagram, DM me a word and you get da 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 da. So all those, if you're able to really get clear on those 5 points, it'll get you one step closer to getting clear on your messaging.
So what other questions do you guys have? Just drop them in the chat for Cynthia. She's actually going over messaging or storytelling, and that pain point. No, that's a gunshot wound. I felt that when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So we're going into a very interesting marketplace. Some people would even call it a vacuum between now and, let's say, the election per se. So TikTok is different than it was during pandemic. Instagram is different. YouTube is different, right? Algorithm changes. Consumer behavior changes and stuff like that. So based on what you've experienced during that time when you were doing this challenge, and then also based on now, what do you feel still works? And what do you feel like people need to account for now that maybe we didn't have to account for before?
I think the first thing we need to learn is people are getting increasingly skeptical
Mm.
about salespeople, people trying to sell them stuff, right? And I don't blame them. Sometimes people abuse people abuse like Instagram, like you said, like, I'll give you the people who just DM you randomly their services on Instagram. Like, stop. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't know what I do, so I know you've probably not taken the time to really learn about what I
Definitely.
do to know if I'm a fit for your offer.
Yeah.
These are the questions that people have on their minds, right? However, what I will say is that people these days buy from people, right? That has been the constant. They will more likely patronize you if they like you, right? And that's where storytelling comes into play. You're very welcome, Destiny. That's where storytelling comes into play, right? Because storytelling is a way. So if you go over my video that I shared today, I talked about becoming a vulnerable protagonist, right? I talked about sharing your self-improvement journey. Like, you see a lot of entrepreneurs and it's all, oh, I'm a high performer and all that. I'm like, it's BS in my opinion, right? It's like, you weren't born a high performer. Like,
Yeah.
there's a process that got you there. All these things make you more relatable. It makes you more likable, right? And even down to the way you talk about your competitors sometimes. Like, there's some people, in my opinion, who are a little too aggressive in the way that they talk about their competitors, and it just makes them come off as haters, right? I feel like a more effective way would be to acknowledge the points of your competitors and then show why your angle is better.
Yeah.
That would be a more effective way. So all that, I would say, all that's to say that the two main things that work right now is likability. The people I've seen really succeed in the social media sphere, I'm sure you know some of them. I know the name Alex Hormozy has been going around. Like, funny enough, I only started recently hearing the name, but it's been going around. People like Brock Johnson, who does really well on Instagram. People like, I can't remember that name right now. It's just because people just like them, right? People just like them. And then the next thing that has been unbeatable since the beginning of time is consistency.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna be like, I wonder if she's gonna say consistency.
It's just consistency. Like, and this is coming from someone who wasn't as consistent as I should have been this year, right? There was a time where I just wasn't posting. I got too busy. But consistency. And what happened within that time is there were a lot of people that, like during the whole like 2020 pandemic, we were in community together and I lost contact with them. But
Yeah.
coming back, I've seen that they've grown their communities too because they stay consistent. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, nothing beats consistency. No matter how imperfect the action is, you will gain traction as long as you stay consistent.
So, do you remember when we met? And I don't even know how I ended up speaking, but I ended up. You guys brought me up, and I was able to share. But do you
Yeah.
remember? Do you remember the formula that I was sharing with everyone?
Yeah, do more. I remember do more. I don't remember
Okay.
the other parts, but
All
I
right.
remember do more.
So people that follow me that are watching today, you guys may have heard me share this formula. I share it pretty often, but I'm going to share it again, right? Because one of the things that Cynthia shared is the consistency, and then obviously to do more, right? So this is just what I believe is like really the success formula. So even if you don't know like your messaging, even if you don't know like you don't have the highest offer, I feel like if you just implement these like this formula from where you are, something will happen. This is what I believe. And then once you tighten up these things, like you said, constantly test, right, and
Mm,
refine, and then once you really understand where you're going and what you have to offer, and then you still use this formula, I think you can really start putting some gas on it, right? So we're talking
right.
about c squared plus d squared equals s, right? So that's the formula for you guys. I can't put the square on here, so it's just a two, but it's commitment, right? Commit. Let me spell commitment. Commitment, right? That's number one. So you're actually going to be committed to what you say you're going to do. It's not just, oh, it's Friday. My energy's popping right now. I'm doing it today. And then Saturday come, you're like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. No, it's like you can make a decision. This is what you want to do. No matter how you feel, you're going to commit to it, right? So that's commitment. Then we have consistency, right? Here's our word, right? Then we have deciding, right? Which I feel like is different from dedication. You have to decide. So, like when you get, it's kind of like when you're driving somewhere.
Hmm.
At some point, you have to make these decisions in real time. and you're going 30, 40, 50, 70, 80 miles an hour. You got to make fast decisions. Am I going to stay in this lane? Am I going to take a right? Am I going to take a left? Is somebody coming, into my lane? Do I need to get off the exit? So you got to make decisions quick. And you got to stick to those decisions, because when you're driving, as soon as you stick to a decision, you're in that lane or you got off the exit. You can't back up. You can't turn around. You really have to stick to that decision. So that's that. And then doing more, right? Doing more. So doing enough so you know if it's working or not. And then when it does, once you have enough data and you figure out that it's working, then you just really do more of what's working for you and not get distracted by other things. Now, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that you're not testing other forms of marketing or introducing other forms of marketing, but you still need to consistently do what works. So Elvis says, discipline over motivation.
Absolutely, Elvis. I was going to say the same thing. Discipline over motivation any day.
Yeah. I mean, it's like yesterday, right? I go to the gym pretty much every day, but I had a long day. I had a lot of calls, right? I didn't go to the gym in the morning yet. Well, no, I went in the morning yesterday. The day before, I didn't go in the morning. So I'm like, man, I really don't feel like going to the gym. But I know every time I go to the gym, I feel better. And I really don't feel like going to the gym. It's how I feel in this particular moment. And then, because as humans, we are wired to stay safe and comfortable. So now my body's like, I mean, you've been on the phone for a couple of hours. You can chill. You can go to the gym tomorrow. It's like, no, because if I don't go, I'm breaking a promise to myself. I'm not really committed to what I say I'm going to do. And then obviously, there's no perfection. Like, we can't be perfect. You may need to take a break every now and again. You may need to, maybe take your foot off the gas a little bit. But at the end of the day, once you are committed and once you do decide, you're going to do it as close to 100% of the time as possible.
Yeah. I think
the needle every day within that area.
Absolutely. I think James Clear said it best in Atomic Habits. He said, don't let one day off become 2 days off, right? I think that's what he said. Something along those lines. I botched it. It's not a direct quote, but something along those lines of, if you take 1 day off, get back on it the next day. Don't let that become 2 days off. Or if it becomes 2 days off, don't let it become 3 days off, So, but yeah.
So, okay. So that's interesting. So right now you feel like consistency and then creating that and then having some sense of likability. So if you're starting Instagram right now, and let's say you're like an introvert, let's say you're not very talkative, let's say your personality kind of lights up after a while. Like, it takes you a little bit to kind of like warm up to the crowd and feel more comfortable. How is somebody like that lean more towards creating some likability on social media?
I would say, so first of all, I'm an introvert. People don't believe that, but I'm an introvert. I am a born introvert, and I call myself a performative extrovert.
Okay.
Like, when we finish from this call, I'm gonna go. My mom knows I'll go crash on my couch or something because of how much energy has left my body, right? But people don't believe that because I've trained myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
and so, like you said, just start where you are, no matter how imperfect it is. I love the title of this show. No matter how imperfect it is, practice makes better. Practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes better. The more you do it, the better you are. So it even happens to me sometimes. So let's say I fall off posting content on social media. When I get back on it, it'll be more difficult. Even talking is more difficult sometimes because of how it's been like a long time since I was like presenting and all that stuff. I'm putting up a performance. But the more I do it, the more into it I become, right? So just start where you are. Don't use introversion as an excuse. I feel like some people start to use that, oh yeah, I'm an introvert. No, it's like there's so many people who are introverts who are able to get out of their shell. Yeah, out of their shell and get it done. And one thing that works for me personally as an introvert is getting out of my own head, right? Taking it away from myself. Because I feel like sometimes we're too concerned about ourselves. But when you think about the value of what you have and the people who that can help, I feel like you have a moral and ethical obligation to put yourself out there to be able to connect with the people who you exist to help. That's it.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. So I urge you guys, listen, if you are in the community, we are going to take this conversation to a private Zoom. If you are interested in joining that community, what I'll do is I will put the contact information below. And if you want to connect with Cynthia, I know I dropped the Instagram. Actually, hold on. Let me put it right here for you, right? So let me take Elvis's contact down. So yeah, right there, Cynthia. You can follow her at you spell it out for them just so they can get it.
At CYNTHIA Cynthia DAE.
So you could tap into her right on Instagram, get into the DMs, ask those questions. And like I said, if you're in the community, we're going to go to our private Zoom, have another 30-minute session, get more questions answered. So if you want to tap in, just text the word action to 213-410-4920. You can connect and ask. Maybe there's some questions you want to ask that are very, pointed to what you currently going on in your business. This would be your opportunity. Cynthia, I appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad we finally did this.
This is so fun.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's find a time and we'll do it again.
Let's set that up. All right.
Awesome.
I will see you on Zoom in a second.
All right. See you in a bit.
All right, you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.